Good morning. Welcome back to Stop In with Sian. It's a lovely day here in London, and yeah, we've got a very good 20 minutes coming up ahead. We've got Vix Lowthion, who is the Green Party's education spokesperson, to talk to us about schools and the shenanigans that's going on the Isle of Wight in various ways. But first, obviously, I want to talk about some of the events that have happened since we last met. And the major one, the one that's, I think, given a lot of us some hope, is the toppling of the statue in Bristol. What a thing to see, what a thing to witness. And I'm from the West Country, and Bristol's one of my cities that I love, and I'm very, very proud of the people there. Now, what we've got is some controversy and a big difference that you can see between the way that protests in London are being policed and the way that the police dealt with it in Bristol. We've seen some really good comments from the police commander in Bristol. What he says is he says, we know that it has been a historical figure that's caused the black community quite a lot of angst. While I'm disappointed people would damage one of our statues, I do understand why it happened. It's very symbolic. And on not intervening and allowing the protests to do what they did, he says, we made a tactical decision that to stop people from doing that act may have caused further disorder, and we decided the safest thing to do in terms of our policing tactics was to allow it to take place. Now, I think that is real policing, focused on safety, focused on what's the right thing to do in a circumstance that recognises the context of what was going on. I'm really proud. And just imagine the alternative, lines of police protecting the statue of a slave trader. I think he made the absolute right decision. We also had comments on from the Green Party in Bristol. Cleo Lake was our Lord Mayor of Bristol for a year in 2018. She took action, removing the portrait of Edward Colston from her office. It's one of the first things she did when she became the Lord Mayor. And I'm very proud of the Bristol campaigners and the Bristol people of Bristol for doing what they did, and for the Greens for standing up for a long time for removing these symbols of colonialism that caused such damage in our culture. It was a moment in history. It was a moment of hope. Obviously, it clearly was not a legal and, as the Home Secretary would put it, orderly process of removing it to just tear it down, but it was the right outcome. I really hope no one faces action for doing that. Right, so for the rest of our 20-minute show, we have a special guest where we'll be discussing schools reopening, what's been happening on the Isle of Wight, and with the track and trace app, as well as various things with sausages. You can also ask questions during the show using the Zoom chat. Thank you for watching, and we'll post some links to some of the things that we talk about and do our best to answer your questions. So without further ado, with us today is Green Party Education Spokesperson Vix. Welcome, Vix.
Hi Sian.
Live from the Isle of Wight.
It's raining.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, none of us can visit anyway, can we? Or most of us are not allowed. So we'll be discussing. So, Vix, let's start with the Isle of Wight and the app that you've been trialling there. You've been the road test for the government's app. What have you been doing about that? How have the islanders experienced this?
It's very quiet, to be honest. There was a big hoo-ha about 5 weeks ago, making sure that as many people on the island downloaded it as possible, including big electric signs at the roundabouts and telling us to do our duty. But since then, we've hardly heard anything about the app. No feedback in particular at all. I mean, it's clear, even from a national point of view, that there's real concerns about no legislation for privacy issues, no NHS ethics approval for this trial, and no success criteria. And that's what I wrote to Matt Hancock and Bob Seeley about.
Yes,
didn't hear anything from them. But brilliantly, the Green Party have been really focused on this. So our Green representative in the House of Lords, one of our two, Jenny Jones, asked in the House of Lords about the Isle of Wight app. And I think she's going to be asking another question this week, asking about the success criteria. What are the government, how are they judging this app to see whether it's viable for the rest of the country? And even then, when she asked the question a couple of weeks ago about that, all they could say is it's no longer central to their test and trace operation. So I think it's just going to quietly disappear, which is not any good for our recovery from this virus if the app that they have proposed and at great expense produced is no good.
And the alternative is something Greens have also been talking about, locally based person testing and tracing and tracking of contacts.
But even that, they've outsourced it, haven't they, to a private enterprise, to Serco, rather than using what we have in our communities, our public health, in our councils, our GP surgeries. These are people that are trained already and already are used to being able to talk to people about personal, private issues and to limit the spread of disease. But the government have bypassed that, and it seems to be even that's not working, with people sitting waiting for calls rather than actively going out there and challenging and fighting this virus.
Yeah, no. Okay, so I thank you. Thank you for all the work you're doing on that. Let's see what results we get in the House of Lords. I cannot ask you about the sausage scandal. Would you give us a briefing? How are Islanders taking the behaviour of your MP here?
Islanders are incredibly creative and have made some amazing memes within hours involving heads being superimposed on sausages and so on. Yeah, our MP broke lockdown rules, and unlike Dominic Cummings, he didn't come up with justifications involving children and life and death situations. His justification is when he went to the barbecue with right-wing newspaper journalists, he only ate half a sausage, so that's okay. It's not okay. Islanders have followed these rules to the letter. We're an isolated part of the world. Many of us have not seen friends and family for many, many months because we cannot justify going across the water, and yet our MP can toddle along for chit-chat with some second home owners who've come down from London for the bank holiday weekend. It's outrageous, and I don't think he fully grasps how furious Islanders are about this.
Yeah, and I've seen some comments of people like literally, I've not been seeing my parents, they're ill. Can you imagine how worried I was? And there's you doing the opposite. It's the hypocrisy, isn't it? Yeah.
It's even worse because it's so frivolous.
Yeah. And
it sets such a bad example. I mean, we've had a lot of outrage about people going on protest marches, but people on the marches have been social distancing, they've been wearing masks, and it's an incredibly important one-off historical event. Whereas popping, to another town for a barbecue at lockdown against all rules is incredibly frivolous and much more damaging, because people think, well, if he can do that, I can do that today, tomorrow, the weekend. That's how we're going to damage our recovery, is through needless breaking of rules like that.
Yeah, it's totally undermining of the wider message, I think. Right, now I'm going to talk about schools now because we've got to move on. You are our education spokesperson, and obviously the question of schools going back is a big one. There's been lots of controversy, and a government backtrack today. So what have you been saying? What have the unions been saying? And have you experienced what's going on in your school?
Yeah, the union's been absolutely brilliant on this, and the backtracking, as you're saying today, with the government saying they're not going to wider open the whole of primary school until September. That's because of unions and scientists and political pressure. It was quite clear to schools that this was never going to work, and now it's quite clear to government that you cannot have 200, 300 children in such a confined space like that. Especially when we've built on playing fields, we have built smaller classrooms, thanks to Michael Gove. It means that there is not the flexibility there to do that. But really, we need to have more feedback from the Department for Education now. What are they planning to do between now and September in order to make get our children back into schools? Those people who want to do that, and families who want to do that. And there are still lots of families who are very concerned and shielding, and I don't think school is going to be a viable option for them for quite a long time. So we need to look particularly at how advantage. They said they're going to buy laptops for, I think it's 750,000 young people. That hasn't happened. Those laptops are not available. Some schools have been given one for the hundreds of disadvantaged young people that they've got. There is no actual plan and organisation going on here at a government level.
Yeah, no, completely. So today they're saying they're going to give schools more flexibility. At the moment, this isn't even being decided at the council level, but some councils have stood up already and shouted about wanting to have more control over what happens in their area. I mean, we've got a different R number in different parts of the country, so that makes some sense.
Yeah, the North West have been really good on that. The councils in the North West, Sheffield have been really good on that. But that's when it's is public health being put forward first. Unfortunately, the government have left the responsibility up to the schools and the governors and the head teachers, but none of them are virologists. None of them are necessarily got a clear scientific background. Again, it's a lack of leadership. It's offloading the responsibility from the government onto other people rather than them taking a stand and having a clear strategy and a direction of how we're going to get out of this.
Yeah, and you're set to go back next week to school, is that right? So you teach year 12?
Yeah. I'm part of a secondary school, but I just teach year 12 and 13 at the moment.
And you've been presumably trying to support equally the different pupils that you've had to work from home during this period. I mean, how has that gone? Like you said, there's differences of disadvantage, differences of digital access that must be making a difference.
Yeah, and I think also what people haven't really grasped is space at home. Housing is a real issue with this, and if you don't have designated space at home to work, that has an effect with homework for 1 or 2 hours a night, but it has a massive effect when it comes to homeschooling. And it's not just about internet access, it's about reorganising your whole life and having a table, having a quiet space to work. And too many of our young people just don't have that at the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is not an easy problem to solve, but I think, making sure the decisions are being made at the right level with the right advice based on children's welfare is perhaps we took a bit of a step towards that today with the government listening at last. Yes. I mean, they said what they're not going to do now, which is really good. But there are a lot of head teachers out there that are crying out for, support, how we're going to plan in September. I mean, some of our high schools will be inviting back next week about 60, maybe 100 children at a time maximum. But then in September, they're supposed to open to over 1,000 young people in that space. And again, it's not just about schools, it's about public transport. It's about the whole infrastructure around that schools are part of. So some schools, some local authorities are not planning to reopen their schools until January. And so there's a huge knock on there for what happens with exams next year. This year, teachers have had to do a judgment, an emergency judgment about exam results alongside our management and the exam boards. But some students have lost 2 terms of learning for exams. I don't think that's as important for some younger children because you're still learning when you're at home, when you're out and about and you're reading. But if you're studying for an exam, you really need to have that input. And I think they're going to have to make some decisions about exams next year as well. And it's going to be so hard on the parents, isn't it? I mean, like you say, there's differences in the amount of space you've got at home. There's no easy answer to any of this. We are still in a crisis situation. So we're still but unfortunately, it seems to be that schools are now closed. Now we can blame the teachers for not allowing us to go back to normal, but it's not that schools aren't the obstacle for getting people back to work. The virus is the obstacle for getting people back to work. Yeah. It's not schools that are responsible for disadvantaged young people. It's cuts to local government spending, cuts to youth services, bedroom tax. There's a whole host of reasons why we have disadvantaged young people in our country, and it's not just to do with schools. And it seems to be quite an easy target. Again, the unions have been very good on this, but it's not just a teacher's issue, it's a whole society issue, this.
saying that, some good could come from how we're teaching the young people now in small classes of 15. Some teachers are realising that actually has some advantages, which the private system have had for many years. Being able to use outdoor space, getting the children outside, if you're able, if your school has outdoor space, and not all schools do, but there are some real advantages to having small spaces, spacious, giving time over. Maybe, you know, with the right direction, the right leadership, we would be able to change our education system for the better based on these examples. But I don't have much trust in this government to do that in such a short space of time.
No, completely. Right, so moving on. Thank you very much for that. I mean, you're doing such a good job. Keep up the good work in education spokespersoning. But apparently, you're there in your home. You've been with your children. You want to show us something that you've been doing with one of your children. Are we able to do that now?
Yeah, I have a young person here who should be technically in school. This is Xander, and he's in year 6, and he spent lots of work to do, but he also likes teaching himself some new skills. So I'm gonna hand you over to Xander to be able to show you that. I think if I click onto there.
Hello.
Hiya. What's this you've got here? This is.
I've been coding on Scratch. So the different kind of coding, but Scratch coding is kind of blocks, so you put together in sequences to make certain coding, to make certain codes, to make games. Yeah. This is a game I made yesterday. What do you want to call him?
What shall we call him? You're asking for it. Let's call him Boris. Let's hope he doesn't do anything embarrassing.
Look at the top. His name is Boris. What should he do? Because look at the top left. His bars are going down. You can't let any of them get down to 0.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So he sort of equally needs all of those things at the moment. So should we give him a drink? That seems important.
No. Wait.
What's the thing? No, don't stop.
I don't want to do anything.
Ah! I think we need to restart.
Are you using up all your internet by being on the Zoom to you? Is that what's going on?
If you minimise it. No.
Oh, no.
Your little guy. Right, now show the code, and you can sort of see if that will work.
Oh, so wait, we're on. This is the. So you see this code? That's the code you use. Oh. So yeah, it's a lot of code. Code the dog.
Excellent. So there's various things that go on, and if you feed him, if you let him play, his vital signs are getting very low.
And these things in the bottom right corner are called sprites. And what happens when he gets down to 0? Because look at his bars.
Yeah. Oh no, you lost.
Oh no.
Wait, let's see if it works this time.
Only.
Boris.
So this is brilliant, and this is from MIT, which is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, very famous. They provide this for free. Anyone can log on and learn to do the code logic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So you've been doing a lot of it off school.
I don't know why it's not working. Maybe if we just call him...
Well, it's because we called him Boris.
Yeah.
Oh!
See? See, now he's working. He's not called Boris.
Oh, well, that's a lesson for us all there. Excellent. Oh, there he goes. Now he's doing his things. Excellent. I love it. So now he's called Bob. Space dog called Bob. Brilliant. Thank you, Xander. And yeah, do your best to keep learning stuff. Code is a very useful thing to learn. Very good. Thank you, Vix. That's brilliant. Yeah, really nice to catch up with you.
I think you should close the window now because it's still doing the music from it.
I think it's fine. We can't hear you. Vix,
Yeah, I'm here.
oh yeah, brilliant. Well, I'm actually, I say that. It is 20 minutes into the show. We're going to have to say goodbye to you. And I'm looking at the wrong screen as well. But it's been really nice to have a chat. And I wish I was on the island. I haven't seen the sea or even the river for a very long time because I'm being very.
No, it is a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. You know, if you're going to be in lockdown anywhere, being locked down on the Isle of Wight is a joy. Feel really lucky.
Yes, well, yeah, we will see how we progress. And thank you for all you're doing. Let's keep up the pressure on the Health Secretary. Let's keep scrutinising the app, and we'll keep about what's going on.
Yeah,
very much. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Right, back to me. No, sorry. That's better. No, we are at the end of the show though, nevertheless. Next week I'm hoping we're going to talk about civil liberties a bit more. I've been putting in questions to the police this week about their use of, for example, horses, kettling, tactics we haven't seen used against protesters for a long time, and the app and other issues around privacy are really a big issue at the moment. So hopefully we'll be able to talk about that next week. You can sign up to watch further episodes on my website, sharnberry.london, or you can go to my Facebook page. There's a button there to sign up to hear from me every week. And that's Sharnberry Green, facebook.com Sharnberry Green. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for everybody in the chat and for watching today. Thank you, Vix, again for coming on. And thank you. Stay safe and goodbye. Victoria Line